Alright, welcome back. We have just looked at editing images in black and white, and so now we're going to move on to doing color for print. And it might be valuable if you haven't looked at it to look at the video for editing images in black and white, just because the process is sort of similar, but as we'll see, there are a lot of some differences as well. So, we're going to be editing the same image we were before, right here. And so just double click on it, on the image to open it. And just like before, we're just going to start by using the embedded profile. First option, press OK. Alright. Remember, we can go to View, Fit on Screen, or Command 0. Make it bigger, fit it on the screen. And that will help. And in Photoshop, if it isn't already, you want to switch it to go to Window, Workspace, down to Photography, switch it to that workspace, because that gives you all the tools you need to adjust the photos at your disposal. Alright, so the first step is to switch the color profile. So you want to go to Edit, Convert to Profile, and what we're going to change it to is CMYK color, which is the type of color that's used for print, and specifically, we're going to use U.S. Sheetfed Uncoated V2. That's the one we want. Which I think is, yeah. So that's one we want to use, and then don't bother with these other options, but that's the main option you want. Okay, so then press OK, and it'll convert the document to work in those colors. Alright, the second thing we want to do is, just like we did the one, fix the DPI. So we'll go to Image, Image Size, and make sure again that the resample image is not checked. You don't want that checked, so leave it unchecked. And switch the resolution to 300 pixels per inch. Press OK. Alright, so now we have the basics are set up for this image. And so then we can add our first adjustments layer, levels. So that's always going to be the first thing you do when you actually get to the editing. So yeah, so another place you can actually get to the adjustments layer is this little black and white thing down here. You just click on it and you select the one you want. So I want levels. Click on that. Okay, so it works similarly to the grayscale one, except for there's one for the overall, and there's one for cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. I wouldn't bother with most of these, I just stick with the CMYK one. So just as before, we take the black slider and move it to the left-hand side of this image data. And this one we'd actually move to the right-hand side, but of course it's already at the edge, so we don't want to move that any more than it already is. Then we want to take this middle slider and move it to the left, sort of lighten the midtones. Alright, remember that when images print on or printing on the newspaper, they'll turn it a lot darker than they show up on the screen. So you want to basically just get to the point where it looks good, and then move it over a little bit more, make it a bit lighter. So about there looks like it would be good. Okay, now the next part is we're going to add a little bit more contrast using that same curves trick we learned before. So we go to the new adjustment layer, go to curves, and under this, in the curves menu at the top, go to sort of the curve presets and select linear contrast. Alright, so that'll just give it a little bit more contrast to just sort of define the colors more. Okay, and then one other thing we can do is some images look like they have will come up with an odd tint. Like this one looks a little yellow and a little red. So usually you won't get that with most cameras. Cameras today are pretty good with getting the color balance right, but this one's a little off. So what we can do is we can add an adjustment layer called color balance. So create that one, and it'll give us 3 sliders here. Right, and we said it looks a little bit too red, so we'll move this slider away from the red over to the cyan. So about there looks right, so just sort of pay careful attention to the colors on the screen. And then this one, go away from magenta, which is kind of reddish, this direction. Not too much, otherwise it'll start looking green. And then this one, we want to get away from the yellowishness. Let's move it over towards the blue a little bit. And that looks better. So if we want to see how that layer has changed it, we can go down here into the layers panel, and on the left hand side there's these sort of eyes, and that's sort of if it's visible or not. So if we click on that eye for the color balance layer, right, it'll make it invisible. So this is what it looks like without the color balance, this with it. Now it's not too dramatic, but it does make a difference with the colors, and they look a little bit more less, that weird tint. And yeah, in some photos it'll be a little bit more extreme than this, and other photos, in most photos you won't notice at all, so usually you won't have to add that. Okay, and the last edit we want to do, same as the last thing we did with the black and white one, was sharpen it a little bit. Alright, because we want to make sure that we can sharpen the details so that when the inks do go on the paper and they do bleed, which they tend to do, that we can sort of combat that by sharpening it before it's printed. So first we click on the background layer in the layers panel to select it, so that's the one we want to sharpen. And then we want to go to view, actual pixels. This helps us see how much sharpening is happening. We can hold down the space bar, click and drag to move around what we're looking at. Okay, and then we want to go to filter, sharpen, and then unsharp mask. And the settings are the same as the black and white image. So we'd have 300%, somewhere between 0.3 and 1.0 pixels for the radius, and always 0 for the levels, or the threshold. So this looks pretty good. If you uncheck it, this preview button, if you uncheck that, you can look at it without the preview, and so give it a second. Yeah, so this is what it looks like normally. Then when we add the preview, one sec, there we go. And then that's when it's sharpened. So the details like the hair and sort of the edges of things become a lot more clear. It does look grainy, but of course when the inks bleed, when they go on the paper, that'll go away. And so we don't care about that. So then we can press OK. Alright, so the image is sharpened. We can go to View, Fit on Screen, and there we go. So that's our color image finished. So now all we have to do is save this. So go up to File, Save As, and first we'll save a Photoshop file. In this one we already actually created one for the black and white, so we'll create one for the color. So we'll go _COL for color, and we'll first save it as a Photoshop file. So just click Save. And that looks alright. Wait for that to save. Alright. And then next we can save it a JPEG version so that we can place that into the actual InDesign file. So under Format, switch it to JPEG. And then, yeah, so we want it to make sure we have that at the end, the _COL for color. So now this is the color version. Press Save. And then quality 10, that looks good. And then we can press OK. Okay, and that's how you edit a color photo for printing. Thanks for watching.